Well, this is weird. It wasn't. It was saying that I wasn't live yet. Now I was live, and again, it's not a. This is not about refugees. So the scriptures speak about witness, bearing false witness. When we look in the scriptures, we see Lot. What was Lot's assignment? To bear true and honest witness. Why? Because Abraham petitioned the Lord for mercy for the community. So bearing false witness is a form of anti-witnessing. And who is the anti? Satan, of course. That's what they're using. Now they are, like I said, operating spycraft, witchcraft, and all sorts of things. But the majority of what they do in the fabricated, fictitious investigations is to stay in somebody's life and run them into the ground all day, bearing false witness. Again, people will say, "You're beating me up. You're killing me." Those are the words in our language that I didn't realize what they meant, and maybe you don't either. So they sit in somebody's life and bear false witness all day long and call it good and call it public safety, call it government, and call it, that's what's wrong. Last 5 years, I couldn't get anywhere because Trump and his people on top of us to include them are going down. Again, it's what they do is when they enter into government for satanic power, anti. So they still have that status, but that status is then allotted to Satan. That's what's wrong with the world. Because God doesn't own governments any longer. I doubt the Vatican's owned by God. Because there's anti within the Vatican, not because they're Catholic, because that's just what's happening. The Pope kind of gets it, but doesn't get it. And again, somebody pointed out some of the kind of slur type words he used in reference to gay people. And it probably isn't only in reference to gay people. So he gets it, but he doesn't get it. Again, preachers that have been corrupt throughout my history of attending church, working for the man every night and day, trying to help them take you away in fictitious investigation, would say, they missed it. Get Smart would say they missed it by this much. They missed it by 6 inches, the head to the heart, or 8 inches, whatever they used to say. So the Vatican has this idea in it that's non-scriptural because you can't go back. You have to go forward. Now, what you are, your business, really. Again, if you're not coming at me, are some gay people devils? Yes. Are some heterosexuals devils? Yes. So again, what's the point? See, that's the problem. There is. It's pointless. Devils pointing at devils, and we're all along for the ride, having our lives ruined. Well, they try to tell us they're all the victims. So again, the biggest problem is false witness. That's why they stay in their victim's life. Find some case that's never going to get solved, or make sure the case doesn't get solved, or they were paid not to solve, and then they were paid to put it on someone else, to take someone else out in an organized crime type of contract, an extortion contract. but they stay there to anti-witness the victim. One of the things that's very faulty in the world, once the victim commits a crime, then it doesn't matter in the whole system. We have, or we used to have it, if you're a victim of somebody, I think the one woman did finally get off the hook. A couple women were being held accountable for something that they weren't supposed to be held accountable in sex trafficking. They were victims, or they committed crimes while being victims. I think eventually the appellate appeals court overturned it or something. No, this is not about me. Because I've been psychologically operated and psychologically tortured on and off in an increasing manner over 5 years or so. Calculated every day. So what they're doing is they're putting spells on their victims. They're anti-witnessing is a form of spell. Running somebody into the ground is a form of spell. Because if they're not watching you, somebody will come along and give you a job. If they're not watching you, somebody will come along and marry you. If they're not watching you, some church is going to say is the best Christian we ever saw. But money come along, the pressure, because they'll look up, internet and everything else on these people, like you see them do to, what's his name? I don't know, one guy that Trump used to support. God, they made his name a has-been already. They're erasing his name from the mind because he was looking at porn. Theoretically, I don't know. I tend to think the evidence is pretty solid because I don't think they stopped supporting Judge Roy Moore, which means the evidence was refutable. So they may have conducted their own investigation, but maybe not. Look, I told you I was on cam girl sites, and I never like that. I get married. I'm not stupid, right? But I guess I was stupid, short because they didn't let it happen. I figured we'd get married and we'd end up in a church together somewhere, or a gurdwara, or a temple, or synagogue, or whatever it is. Remember, Paul, one of the most revered apostles, or the most revered apostle. I know John and Paul are the two probably most revered apostles, followed by Andrew. Are you behind me, Andrew? And big X appears. Hashem will do that. Hashem is funny like that. Remember, Andrew was Jewish, actually. I think he was. I don't think his name. I wonder what his real name was. But Paul was a murderer in reality. He murdered Christians. He killed Christians for the system, but he was a murderer. So again, before you get mad, well, we were the Jewish authority, and we think. Remember, the whole thing where you have to repel everybody that criticizes the Jewish authority during Rabbi Yeshua ben David, Jesus' time. Rabbi Yeshua ben David was going through the same thing. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon's son Eliezer, they were all going through the same thing. It was a corrupt government. In fact, it was a Roman government and cronies and their criminal cronies. So again, there's no reason to fight that argument. It makes total sense, and it begins when you look at the Kabbalistic world that began after that, after Rabbi Yeshua ben David. You'll understand. I mean, Rabbi Emden had already figured out that it all fits together somehow. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Now, To my credit, I'm not speaking about people that talk about killing people and killing Jews. But neither did. Now, the weird part is, I got to get his name. I forget. He's Muhammad's grandson, and I always post some of his information because he, tells you to respect your neighbor and love your neighbor and how to treat your neighbor and never, condemn your neighbor. Just again, witness. I guess it's almost witnessing falsely in a good way. A good way. It's witnessing falsely to the. It's actually witnessing your neighbor first. So again, Hashem would pay that back, even though it doesn't spell out like, "Hey, lift up your neighbor and treat your neighbor better than treat yourself." I guess it does. It's part of that type of thing. He treats his neighbor better. He witnesses his neighbor better than he witnesses himself. But he hated death, but he ended up fighting, and he died in battle. So again, these are the type of people Rabbi Emden and Rambam were reading. Wow, that's great. I think I'll use some of that. We'll turn it into Judaism. We'll convert it a little bit to Judaism. Like when I woke up, I said, I could read you statements from the Bhagavad Gita as translated by Sri Prabhupada, the Hare Krishna guy, the Guru. I tell you, it was like some related, you'd believe it, or some Jewish thing. It all kind of fits together. No one person is going to have all the answers. That's the bottom line. That's the first thing you should understand. And not, every person that comes to this planet is going to have some dung around them. The question is it available to you or not? So again, this should develop a mindset on how to view other people. The scriptures actually tell you how to view other people, but you can't see it because you're too busy anti-witnessing your neighbor. So again, bearing false witness is how they run the government, up by Satan, and down, run the people down by Satan. And it's not just the government. Again, the government includes the plutocracy. There's two plutocracies in the United States, the right and the left, at a minimum. So there's two deep states. Now, people within the deep state will go back and forth. But once you get up high ranking, like some of these others that we've seen speaking about being part of the deep state or fighting the deep state, then it's hard to switch to the other deep state. Like people in government right now that might be Biden deep state. But this is the key. We don't want a Harris deep state. We want it to end. It's not necessary. Harris did not go to foreign nations and order prosecutors fired. Harris's grandchildren did not receive $9 billion from Saudi Arabia, or children received $9 billion from Saudi Arabia. I guess it's going to be transferred eventually to the grandchildren. It would take a while for running that money out, right? So again, there's no reason to have a deep state. There's no reason to feign community service and some sort of neighborhood protection. What they're doing is they're honing their skills at sexualizing and extorting people through those entities. We've already seen enough of them fall to know that it's BS and part of a deep state entity. It's made to actually protect the pedophiles from being investigated and point the investigation at other people, and to create an illusion at a minimum. No, I'm not MAGA. That was put in MAGA to destroy the thought. So that is what it is, and isn't what it isn't. The most truthful statement in the world. It is what it is. It is Hang on, I got to get off. I got to get off the Wi-Fi. Oh wow, it looks like it got loud again. I wonder if I'm too loud. I limited the volume, but the other gate meters going crazy. But it isn't my truth. It isn't your truth. It isn't the most truthful person's truth. It isn't the most intelligent person's truth. Truth exists independent of any thought. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, is there sound? Yes, of course. So if you don't know the truth still exists. And of course, if you read various religions' scriptures, they will tell you the absolute truth is what God is. So if you don't understand why I say how most people are forgiven and aren't going to have to worry about an afterlife, and how certain people that are causing other people to fall by projection and by power, anti-power, are the ones that are actually condemned. It's kind of a reverse world, but we knew it would exist. They would call evil good, good evil. Because if you're sinning by the work of another person with more power in the form of anti-power, then it's not your sin. But these people want you to believe that it's, the little people. If you can't get out of your way, if you're living a life and you can't get, even if you're a billionaire, if you live in a life and you can't get out of your way in your life, you're probably not going to be judged. You'll go through the process of afterlife, but you won't be judged. Although for me in my life, they kept saying, because I was speaking for the Lord, I was witnessing. I'm not judging people, the Lord judges. But I have to witness everything, what's going on, so we can get people in the right direction. But they would say into the mind, judge not lest ye be judged. And I just ignored it because I knew I was okay. Like I said, when I woke up, God said you're saved 50 different ways and you don't even know it. I believed in my salvation, but didn't know there was other mechanisms, even within what Rabbi Yeshua ben David said. So the Lord said, let's get this over with. Ask me to judge you. Judge me. Righteous. Now get going. We got more work to do. That's how Hashem was, especially back then. We had so much. We did so much healing. New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Illinois, Indiana, and then some. Again, I can sit in my room and the Lord will power it. I can heal things over in Gaza. But again, you have the anti. And if the anti exists, even though you heal it, it's not going to heal perfectly. Because again, like I told you when I started speaking this, God doesn't own this planet, at least any longer, if he ever did. So if we return to God, but the way to do that, remember, Trump is projected as a devil. If Kamala Harris will go in and attain that office, again, Biden's got too much baggage to be there. If she goes in there and then manifests what she's saying in the spirit and heals the world, she can't even hate Trump. She could just, what she has to do is put justice out there. The metaphysical, primordial, providential justice. And then it'll take care of itself. That easy. The world takes care of itself. Nobody has to do anything. But when we have the anti moving, you see the mess. Thank you, friend. So again, make a long story short, they're running around anti-witnessing. You don't even know they're doing. They drive by you, they curse you by anti-witnessing you. And I come along, God says, heal that person. And they find out I'm healing people and they get mad because they're not happy to be a millionaire. They're not happy to be a multimillionaire. Not happy to be a billionaire unless they're oppressing other people. So it's a very major psychological disorder today.